Hey all, Chucky Lad here. Today we're going to do a Litchi Waypoint flight. Now Litchi is an app that you can use instead of the DJI Go app for your Phantoms and Mavics. I'm using a Phantom 4 for this flight. Now to start off, we go to the mission hub, which is the website of the Litchi app. So you go to flylitchi.com/hub, and you're basically getting a Google Maps with the ability to set up waypoints. Now we're going to do a waypoint flight around Deep Creek Reservoir, Deep Creek Dam in New South Wales. We'll zoom in there. There it is. We're going to do a waypoint flight around here. So part one, I'm going to show you how I set the waypoints up and how the mission hub here works, and then we'll save it to the app and we'll have a quick look at that. And then part two, we'll take the Phantom out to the dam and do the actual flight and have a look at the results. Now before you actually do code these flights, obviously you probably a good idea to reconnoitre the area, have a bit of a look around. I mean, you theoretically can do it all blind, but theory doesn't fix your drone up. So I am familiar with this site. Plus you can go into say Google Earth down on Street View and have a look around. You can see there's quite a few hills and whatever that I need just to be wary of as I'm flying around the dam, that are much higher than the dam. Not a whole lot higher, but a bit higher. But I'll explain how to get around that. So you have a look on Google Earth. Now, when you code waypoints in Litchi, by default, the height that you make the drone at that waypoint is always relative to the height of your home point. So if your home point is, I'll put a waypoint. I'll just zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to make my first waypoint, and basically where I'll set home when I first arm the motors on this little concrete pad down here, just by left clicking. And we now have the first waypoint there, and it's defaulted to 30 meters high. Now that means that when I start off, the drone will go 30 meters high. Then if I set a waypoint perhaps over here by left clicking, that's make the second waypoint, and that's defaulted to 30 meters. Now if this hill here is, I don't know, 50 meters high, and I just leave that like that, then the drone's going to run into the hill. Certainly what I do, before the latest version of Litchi, you would go into Google Earth and you could set all your waypoints in there, because it would pick the altitude above the actual waypoint, and you could code it relative to that. But you can do that in Litchi now too. By default, these are heights above the home point. But once you have coded all your waypoints in with the heights that you want above the ground level under the waypoint, you can just go in. Once you transfer the mission over to the app before you fly, you can go into Litchi and tell it to make all of these waypoints whatever height they are relative to the ground level at the waypoint. And I'd certainly advise you to do that. Then all you really need to worry about is trees and towers and power lines and those sorts of things. I'm going to set, if I don't particularly want to get close, I usually default these to about, you can basically, let's have a look. We'll click on waypoint 1 just with the left, just to select it, and over here it's changed to waypoint 1. You may change that to say 70 meters we'll just save it. You'll see here now that it's, once I start off and hit start the mission, it's going to go straight up in the air to 70 meters, and we'll go over here to waypoint 2 and we'll change that one to 70 meters. So now it's going to be 70 meters and quite safe, and I'm going to tell it to make these waypoints, these heights above 70 meters above this point, which is nice and safe. Now you can basically then you go ahead and set your waypoints, just left click. I normally wouldn't do a waypoint flight like this other than just to show you how I do waypoint flights, but I would normally just have a couple of waypoints or 3 waypoints and set, because I'd be setting up a particular video shot rather than just a bit of a cruise around the dam. But for the sake of the exercise, this is probably the best way of doing it. Now in your settings, you can see you can select your aircraft and whether you want metrical or imperial, and you can also set your cruising speed. I have it down fairly low for the Phantom because if you go too fast, the props get in the way and wreck my video. More importantly, these straight lines, you can select curved turns or straight lines. Now for this demonstration we have it on curved turns, which means that when I say when the drone's flying from waypoint 1 to waypoint 2 to waypoint 3, it's not actually going right to that waypoint. It's doing a turn, a curve, to keep things nice and smooth, because you're filming the whole thing. Keep things nice and smooth. As you can see, it follows the blue line rather than the yellow line right to the drone. You can change the curve size over with the curve size slider over here. Let's say can select waypoint 2, and the curve size is 81 meters, it says. You can make that bigger, smaller, what have you. I would normally leave that on straight lines, which means that then the drone will fly from 1 all the way to 2, and then it would turn around and fly straight to 3, because I'm normally setting up just for 1 or 2 waypoints, for 2 waypoints or 3 waypoints, so as I can code a particular shot and I have much finer control. But this function is great too. So that's how you, and then the last waypoint you're going to, you might want to zoom right in and tell it to come back to there and to hover over. So you can see all those waypoints have now defaulted to 70 because I haven't, the only heights I've put in are 70 meters, so it said all the others are 70 unless I go in and change them, click on them individually and change them. And the last waypoint is waypoint 6. Basically the drone will stop 70 meters in the air above that point, and then I can just land the bird. Now the camera control as you're doing all this, this is down the bottom of the waypoint settings. You can see, well, let's go to waypoint 1, and we've got the option for disabled focus, point of interest, or interpolate. You can make points of interest wherever you like and basically tell the camera to look at those points of interest as it's flying. You might want to just by right clicking, so a right click there's a point of interest. Now you can also see it's come up over on the right hand side with an altitude. So at this point, this is at 1 meter, so the camera from waypoint 1, the camera will be looking directly 1 meter above the water at that point in the dam. We can that's where I set that. I can say focus on a point of interest, and to focus at point of interest 1. If there's more points of interest, perhaps one is over here and one over there, so there's 3 points of interest now. Now I can tell 1, you'll see at the moment the drone is pointing towards point of interest 1 because that's where I've got, but I can tell it now to say point of interest 2, and you see it's now pointing over towards there, the camera, and I've told it to focus on the point of interest. And a side note here with Litchi, you can tell the app to start filming automatically every time you start a mission, which is a great idea, so you don't forget to do it. So the camera's filming, takes off, and it's looking out. As it does, it's looking at that point of interest in that area at 1 meter above the ground, and then as we go to we'll go to the next waypoint down here. I can tell it to perhaps, just for the sake of the exercise, to be looking at what point of interest 3 that I put in there. So we're on waypoint 2. We can tell it to focus on a point of interest and to look at point of interest 3. And there you'll see it is. So I'll just coming a little bit. From 1, it's looking over at point of interest 2 from the first waypoint, and as it flies, it's looking over there, and then as it approaches this waypoint, it's doing a curve here and looking directly at this point of interest here. So you can see you can get some fairly fine control over what you're doing. The interpolation enables you to, that's even better. Basically, you can go to, let's say at waypoint 2 here, we may tell this to interpolate instead, rather than looking at your point of interest. So you tell it to interpolate, for example, maybe right down to minus 90 degrees, which means the camera will be pointing straight down, still up at 70 meters. Well, let's say we'll tell it as it approaches waypoint 2 to come down to 50 meters, from 70 meters at waypoint 1 down to 50 meters, and to move the camera from looking out at point of interest 2 to looking straight down when it gets to waypoint 2, or in the middle of that curve basically in waypoint 2, and then we'll tell it in waypoint 3, by the time it gets to waypoint 3, to still interpolate, but to be, say, minus 10. Now that would mean, once we've done that it will be looking straight down at the ground, and as it flies towards waypoint 3, the camera's slowly panning up to expose the point of interest, or whatever you want to put here. You might want to tell point of interest and tell it to point to look at point of interest 4 as it does all that. You can see the length between waypoints is here in the middle of the waypoint. It tells you how far between waypoints. You can only have them a certain distance, I think a kilometre or 2 kilometres, but you can always, if this was too long, if that was 2.4 kilometres rather than 243 metres, you could select that waypoint and tell it to insert one halfway basically, and then you'd have the distance would be okay for the software to work, and you just have to give some instructions to the waypoint that you inserted, or you may not have to, because it would default to the next one, I think it is, or the one prior. You can have a look at that. And the entire flight, up the top you'll see that we've coded in 857 meters, and the software is telling us that flight will take 4 minutes. Now I've prepared another one, so I'll just open the one that I've already done, which is a little bit more extensive but still the same area. Okay, now this is the flight that will go out and fly. It's basically the same, but it's a bit longer. I've coded in sort of a circle right around the dam, and it's 3.5 kilometres. It's about 2 miles or so, and it's going to take 11 minutes at the cruising speed that I've got set, and it's going to do a bit of interpolation and a bit of looking at points of interest, etc. But that's basically the flight, and you just go into missions and save. I've called it reservoir. You just save it. Once you've done that, it's simply a matter of logging into the app, and that flight, that mission should be there. And we'll have a look at transferring that to the app and setting the app up ready for the flight in part 2.